And happy Friday, everybody. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts. And today, joining us on the back catalog listening party, we have Doyle Turner. And Doyle, are you joining us from your home in Bemidji, Minnesota?
That is true. You can see the green over my shoulder there. We've got spring up in Bemidji.
Excellent. And we also have Ted Hanashevitz joining us. Ted, where are you joining in from today?
Watertown, Minnesota. And you
Oh.
can't see out my windows.
And I'm joining you from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And my fearless co-host, Anthony Ihrig, is off at Disneyland, enjoying a much delayed spring break. And we are very happy for him. But without further ado, let's welcome Doyle Turner and Ted Hanashevitz to the back catalog listening party.
Oh, thank you.
That's right. Folks are excited and joining the party. And we have, let's see, the rabbit hole is in the house. Happy day after Doyle Turner Day. We're going to, I saw this. So for those of you who don't know, the Rabbit Hole, great radio show that's on, and you were a guest on last night. Tell us about Doyle Turner Day, Doyle.
I don't quite know how this all evolved. I happened to be listening last night, and all of a sudden it became Doyle Turner Day. They played one of the songs off the album, and all of a sudden it was Doyle Turner Day. And they are very clever human beings. So I'm still wondering when the other shoe is going to fall on that deal.
Excellent. Well, happy day after Doyle Turner Day. And well, maybe we're just keeping Doyle Turner Day, just extending it. So it's Doyle Turner weekend here on the back catalog listening party. Looks like Chris is joining the party. Happy Friday from sunny, windy, Savage, Minnesota, cracking open a nice IPA for today's show. Chris, I know often comes with an Uda Pils, and I have to say that's what I'm drinking today in my back catalog listening party pint glass. And I'm drinking an Uda Pils Kirsch. I can never say it correctly. I'm sure some German will correct me on my pronunciation of that. Let's see. We have Joe joining us from Minneapolis. Wiley, cloudy here in Northern Virginia. Margarita, though, is in his hand, so that sounds like it's going to brighten things up. Happy Friday from Alinda, Bevan, and Sarah. So those are my parents in Connecticut, and my sister, Sarah, from Alaska, is visiting them. So hi, fam. Let's see. Joni joining us, and hello from Eden Prairie, Minnesota. So welcome, Penny, joining us from Northfield. Tell us where you are tuned in from. If you are new to the show, this is the show where we invite different guest artists to revisit old records and talk about them, answer your questions. And it's also, our happy hour. It's the beginning of the weekend. So if you're enjoying a beverage or a snack of any kind, let us know what you're drinking. Ted, what are you drinking in that can I see?
I've got Voodoo Ranger, New Belgium.
Nice.
And I'm double fisting. This is not beer, but this is from Lupine. Rest in peace. But this is my water. So this is and
nice.
I have nuts.
Me too. Look, I got I got a whole lot of nuts. This is I've unsalted roasted whole cashews is what I have happening in this. Don't tell Ben. I'll try not to eat all of them. And
you eat all of them in this hour. That would be great.
I kind of want to see it.
Challenge. I don't know if I want to eat a whole container of cashews. I'd feel pretty sick afterwards. Doyle, what are you drinking in Bemidji?
I'm drinking water. I got Bemidji water, and I love it.
You are at the headwaters.
I hate to tell you this, but our water is a little nicer than your water because we're at the headwaters.
Upstream. Yeah, exactly. So for those of you who don't know, the Mississippi River starts in Bemidji, where Doyle is located. In fact, my 5-year-old son told me that the other day. He's like, did you know that the Mississippi River starts in Bemidji? And so.
Now, are you going to go to the headwaters when you come to Bemidji next?
I think we have to. I think he's going to have to see where it all begins. So, and Joni says everyone is set with the snacks. It's true. We're going to have a great old time, and I'm so excited that both of you have joined us because we had advertised earlier in this week that Doyle Turner was going to be our guest. But then he brought along Ted Hanashevitz, a great songwriter in his own right, but he's here in his producer role for the record that we're going to talk about. But before we get started, Doyle, maybe you could give us the brief 2-minute origin story of, where you grew up, how you started making music, and in particular, where this album fits into your discography.
Oh, okay. So I grew up about 55 miles west and a little bit south of Bemidji in a little town called Nadawash. And we had about 200 people there. And one of the nice things was my dad played guitar from the time when he was really young and out partying with his friends. And then once he had a family, he played guitar for us. And so one of the fondest things I remember is him playing guitar to us and singing to us as we go to sleep at night. And so when I was 7 years old, I picked up his guitar and started playing and been doing it ever since. Didn't do a lot of writing until about 5 or 6 years ago. It was January of 2020 when I joined the singer-songwriter songwriting challenge group. And that's how I met my friend Ted. And we started writing. I can't keep up with Ted, but I write a lot. And I ended up having this backlog of songs, and I've been able to put out music pretty regularly since that January of 2020 because I've been writing really actively. Like I say, just a little bit less than Ted. Ted writes like a maniac.
Quantity, quality. That's
Well, so yeah, tell us a little bit about, for those of you who don't know, obviously Ted's also a songwriter. You guys met through writing, but now you're also have a band together, the International Treasures, but you each play solo. Tell us how you decided to bring Ted in as the producer for this record we're going to talk about today.
I think it was the second summer that I was writing with the group. Ted decided that he wanted to have people co-write with every prompt, and we do 10 prompts over the summer. And so he asked me if I would write with him, and it was just like this was a natural fit. And he was gracious enough to take me on, and we had so much fun writing, and we started gigging together. And so it just seemed like Ted's got this superpower. He is one of these people that can hear a song even as we're creating it, and he can hear all the production value that he wants to try or experiment with. And so as we were writing and I was hearing all of this wisdom and genius that he has, I was thinking, the next album would be really cool if Ted would agree to produce it. And he doesn't do that for a lot of people. So I feel pretty special that he asked me to or join me on this album because he's amazing.
That's awesome. And for those of you who aren't songwriters and don't know, a prompt is basically for songwriting for, any kind of writers, but especially songwriters who participate in songwriting groups like this or retreats. It's basically just like what it sounds like. It's like you're given either a word or a phrase or a theme that everyone uses to write. And sometimes individuals just do it for themselves. They'll just, I've done that. I've just like literally picked out a sentence from a book or whatever, and just to get something going. So, but this singer-songwriter challenge that Doyle was talking about is an online one that happens. And a bunch of the artists that we've had here on the back catalog listening party, including Sarah Morris and Katie Tessman, and a bunch of folks have been a part of that group. So, and it's open to anyone who writes songs, right? So we'll have to put a link in the comments and in the show notes so that folks who are interested can participate in that if they want to get involved. But it's Friday. I want to hear music. What do you think?
All right. Yeah.
So the album that we're going to revisit today is called Sweet Difficult Sounds. It came out in 2022. And the first track that you picked to feature from it is Best If I Forget. Is there anything you want to say about this song before we take a listen?
This song took on an amazing amount of life once we hit the studio. I wish I could have taped it when Ted hit the studio. He just was like this ace, and everything he did was just like, yep, boom, 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 boom. And this song fell into place because Ted is amazing.
Here it is. This is Best If I Forget by Doyle Turner here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
envelope. I'll hold you between my fingers, memorize these words of smoke. Say your feelings to me forward, speak emotion in the light. Thought the touch of a hand on my cheek could sustain me for the rest of my life. Flame refines, flame defines, it's aching in my chest. Leaving left to smolder is the best that I can get. You're a letter not delivered. You're an errand far too west. A melody that slips to silence, burning notes I can't forget. Flame refines, flame defines, this aching in my chest. Leaving left to smolder is the best that I can get. You burned me down on the day I met you. Burn me down again as you leave. Flame refines, flame defines, this aching in my chest. Leaving left to smolder is the best that I can get. It's best if I forget. Send me bad news in writing, blur goodbye through an envelope. I'll hold a flame to this corner, knowing it's better not to know. It's better not to know. It's better not to know.
All right. That was Doyle Turner with Best If I Forget from his 2022 release, Sweet Difficult Sounds, which we are revisiting today with Doyle Turner joining us from Bemidji, Minnesota, and Ted Hanashevitz, who produced the record also. And I believe that's the track that heads off the album, right? The first track. And
Yep, that's this track.
And tell us a little bit about this title, Sweet Difficult Sounds, with this beautiful, tree on the cover. I have to say, difficult is never a word I would use to describe you, Doyle, in any way, or your music. So tell us a little bit about that title and where that came from.
That title is from a short story called by that name, Sweet Difficult Sounds, by an author from Washington, D.C. Her name is I.M. Desta. And in this story, it's a fictional story, but in this story, there's folks that speak different languages. One's an immigrant to America. And one of the things that unites and is kind of the hero of the entire story is language. And I'm a huge lover of language. And so to me, that really rang true. And I remember that text exchange, Ted, when I ran across that title, and it was just like, I was so excited about it. I didn't think Ted really had a say in if it was going to be the title or not, because I was so wound up about it.
Wiley says very nice, and I agree. And interesting hearing you talk about your inspiration for writing and that title. Obviously you're an avid reader, and you must have been an avid writer, even though you weren't writing songs until about 5 years ago. Do you have a writing background? Like, do you write in other formats?
I was when I was young, my dad took us to Chicago, and he wanted to become an Episcopal priest, and so we moved away from this idyllic little 200-person village, and we were dumped into the north side of Chicago, the very first suburb to the north, Evanston, and it was city life, and we were just lost. We were just these people from the woods, you know. And so I remember running across this sheaf of papers that my dad had written on, and it was a short story about him as a young person hunting, and I was just taken by this. And so I read it several times, and I thought, well, I want to do that. And so ever since then, I've always written in some format, not as actively as I'd like, but I turned towards poetry when I was young, wrote a lot in high school, went and got an English degree, and had an advisor who was a pretty well-known poet. And so that's always been my format. I've tried other formats that haven't felt as natural. But songwriting, it was just like once I started doing that regularly, then it felt like the skies opened, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Well, and tell us a bit about that. You said you write regularly now, and obviously you're part of this songwriting group. So there's prompts, but I mean, and obviously you're writing for that, but left up to your own devices, do you write every day? Do you write in spurts when you feel inspired? What's your process like?
I was lucky enough to be introduced to the Writer's Way a few years back, and so ever since then I've been writing every morning, doing those morning pages. Mm-hmm. And to me, that gives me that sense of, at least if I haven't written, I don't write anything else throughout the rest of the day. I've written something. And so I do that pretty regularly. And then I write with the group, and I do have a Patreon that one of the things they get is a new song every month. And so I write I'm writing at least a song a month, oftentimes many more. So.
Excellent. And I just put on the bottom of the screen, you can join Doyle Turner's Patreon, support his music, and get those bonus songs. And we'll also put that in the comments as well. But if you have questions or comments, feel free to throw them in the chat. And Rabbit Hole, a bunch of troublemakers over there. Doyle was almost banned from the Rabbit Hole for being so difficult. Almost. I have trouble believing that Doyle was difficult in any way. But Ted, you're here. You produced the record. You've written with Doyle a lot. You've toured with him. Tell us a little bit about how Doyle is to work with. You can give us the inside scoop, just between the two of us.
He's the sweet part. I am the difficult part. So Rabbit Hole is being kind and just reflecting. Yeah. No, it was really a joy. So number one, I love Doyle's songs. He's such an amazing songwriter. And so I wanted to produce someone's record. I really thought, I want to produce Doyle's record, but I didn't want to ask. So then when he asked me, I was kind of like, sure. But inside I was like, yeah. So, there's actually the three of us, myself, Doyle, and Troy Foss, who engineered the record, did a lot of really fun, just like time in the studio together or collaborating even in a little Zoom call or something, working on what we're going to do, this thing, like demoing songs.
Yeah, Troy is a huge part of this record. He is such a collaborative engineer. I was telling somebody just this week about, even when it comes down to mixing, he's so good at capture, and he's got a beautiful studio. But when I sit next to him side by side at the board and we start talking about, well, what about this? What about that? It's just this synergy. And when Ted was up at Suppled as well, it was just like, oh, this is the fun part, right? We can create in a different way together because we've got this really skilled engineer by our side. So,
and I think we might have some photos from that studio. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go.
Yeah, there's Supple Studios. That's I believe the first day we tracked for that album, wasn't it, Ted?
Gosh, maybe. I don't remember. I remember one time we were super tired, and so we were falling asleep in the mixing. But maybe that wasn't mixing because we ate too much for lunch. But I don't
remember. Let's see. I think. Oh, that. Oops. That is. That's not in the studio. I don't think. But that is showing the love for Ted.
Yes. Look at that beautiful expression on his face. That's Phyllis on the other side. Phyllis Heineshevitz, Ted's lovely wife.
So it's your two wives, Ted. It looks like Doyle and Phyllis. Yeah. Excellent. I love that. Well, we got some great comments coming in and questions. Penny said she's seen both of you at the songwriter rounds in Northfield. Impressive. And Joe has a question, which I think is for Ted. The organ works really well on all the tracks. Do you lean toward the organ in a lot of your production work?
I do. I love B3. Oh my gosh. And in particular, the person who played on this record has played on quite a few of my records and our Treasures record. Steve Peffer, he's from down in Nashville, and somebody I stumbled upon probably 6 or 7 years ago. He's just so.
Who does he play for, Ted?
We didn't test that. He plays for. We got to cover my microphone. Alabama. If you've ever seen Forrest Gump, you know. So he plays in Alabama. He's a keyboard player in that band now and has been for 10 or 12 years. But he did something for me. I stumbled upon him through something, and he's just amazing. And yes, I love it. And Doyle, thankfully, loves it too, because I was like, I hope he likes these parts.
Yeah. So was this a situation? I know you guys were in the studio together. Was this a kind of thing where you were kind of calling more of the shots, Ted, or did you just sort of present ideas and Doyle says, yay or nay?
I would never call the shots. So I don't know what I'm doing as a producer, but my brain thinks that the artist calls the shots, and I just want to come up with ideas that you throw everything at the wall, and then whatever seems to stick is going to work. And Doyle was like all about, yep, I like that, or no, I don't, I want to do this, and that's, so I don't feel like the producer should call the shots.
Excellent.
I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong.
Well, I think every producer works differently. So I think, and every artist works differently in the studio. So people are looking for different things. Obviously a team effort. And I think Amanda B. Perry, another songwriter from Minnesota. And I believe she's another member of the songwriting group joining us. And then Chris has a question actually about the songwriting group. So writing a song a month, are the songs just the bones of something that you work on more? Like, I'm guessing probably every song is different, right? Some are more done when you share it than others, or some, you work on and refine for quite a while?
I think that it's both and, right? There is a song that we put on the Treasures album that came in 15 minutes, and I didn't even know if it was a song. And Ted luckily was able to hear it and said, no, this is a song. And it's pretty much complete the way I wrote it. There's a little bit different instrumentation or the way we present it, but that song came just as a whole hunk. But I mean, you write Mother Banjo, you know that they don't always fall out of the sky like that. And then a lot of times, well, my idea is a done song is better than anything else. And so as long as I can complete it, then I'm happy. I don't like having a lot of unfinished business hanging around, though I've got a few of those songs that haunt me every once in a while. But I always try and complete them as much as I'm able.
Excellent. Well, let's get to another completed song. At least it was completed enough to record on a record, and we're going to get to that in just a little bit. But this next track that you picked to feature from Sweet Difficult Sounds is In This Meantime. And when I was typing out the tracks to create these banners for the show today, I kept having to make sure that I had it. Is it meantime? Like 2 words or 1 word? That just shows the kind of world we're living in right now, where I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's the other kind of meantime. So, but is there anything you want to say about this song before we take a listen?
This song features Sarah Morris on all of the harmonies, and it just brings this magic to it. This is a song that I didn't think was going to make the record because we were coming up against some deadlines. And Ted and I had some very intense conversations about this song. And I'm glad that it made it under the wire, but it features Sarah Morris.
Great. Well, this is Doyle Turner with In This Meantime here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
I give you my heart, 6 notes and a page. Just paper and words, melodies heard now and then in this place. Outside there's this light that matches my mood. Gusts of hard wind that fully dried leaves and yesterday's news. And I give it all just for a few moments where I stumble into the clear blue. Here's hoping it happens in time to save me and you and carry us through in this meantime. Take what you like, leave me the rest. No matter the cost, I think that I've lost what's clean and what's best. The older I get, the more time I take. I sing to the dark, I sing to the dawn, for all that's at stake. And I give it all just for a few moments where I stumble into the clear blue. Here's hoping it happens in time to save me and you and carry us through in this meantime. Who gets to say that enough is enough? I'm singing redemption so much, my voice is right. Heart is a drum that staggers and swears. Love's as quick as it hates, believes in bad faith, swinging wildly at air. I drink to your health, I sing for my soul. Hoping that God lets this heart beat the odds and return to the fold. And I give it all just for a few moments where I stumble into the clear blue. Here's hoping it happens in time to save me and you and carry us through in this meantime. Save me and carry us through in this meantime.
Doyle Turner, in this meantime, from his 2022 release, Sweet Difficult Sounds, which we are revisiting today with the very sweet and not difficult Doyle Turner and his producer, Ted Hanashevitz, which he claims is the difficult one, but I'm not sure about that. But but it's great to have you both here. Folks are loving the music, and this is a great time to mention that if you love the music, you can buy the music. And I highly recommend that you get the high-res files, because as good as it sounds, listening on YouTube, it can sound better, believe it or not, when it hasn't gotten through all those ones and zeros. And you can get either the high-quality digital files on Bandcamp, or you can buy the physical album. Doyle says he still has CD copies, so you have to get them while they're hot. You can go over to his Bandcamp page, and there's lots of other music you can buy there as well, including, I'm guessing, the International Treasures album as well. And Doyle and Ted have mentioned this. This is a project that Doyle and Ted do together, a joint project. They obviously each have their solo records, but they put out an album. I guess it was last fall. Was it that long ago? Yeah. Yep. So you can find out more about that. And I'm going to actually post in the comments here. There we go. A link where you can find out more about the International Treasures as well. And let's see. We have Joni says, such a beautiful song. You and Sarah sound great together. Again, that was Sarah Morris on the harmony vocals, a past guest here on the back catalog listening party. And this is maybe a great time. Oh, and then we got a comment also from Wiley. I was listening to Run a Little Faster yesterday, another song with Sarah Morris. And maybe this is a great time to talk about the personnel that recorded on this record. Obviously, we know Doyle and Ted are on the record. Maybe one of you wants to talk about who else. And I also have some photos, so maybe that will guide us a little bit. Yeah, does one of you want to start talking about where you recorded it and who you assembled, especially on that track?
Well, I'll talk a little bit about Supple Studios if you want to talk about some of the folks on it, Ted. We've got this really great engineer, Troy Foss, who did a lot of engineering in Chicago and out in LA, and then came back home to raise a family. So we've got this just amazing sound engineer, and he built his own little studio. Like when I say he built his studio, like with his own hands, he put the thing up from the ground up and put it exactly how he wanted it. And so Supple Studios is a really special place for me because it's the first place I ever recorded. And so we're really, really pleased to have Troy. Every project I can get Troy on, I'm so happy I can get him on it. But Ted, do you want to talk about some of the folks on the record?
I can talk about some of them, but I don't know all of their names anymore. I didn't select a lot of the musicians, so I don't remember who they are. So we had Steve Peffer. We had Christy Tell Miller played. She played the mandolin on that song. I forget who was the violin player.
Her name was Eliza Michelson, and she's a Bemidji person. Yeah.
Okay, and then I forget the guy's name who played drums.
Too. He played Doug Quantz. Yeah, Doug Quantz played the drums.
Yeah, and then
this guy Ted Hanashevitz played bass on everything.
What?
Yeah.
Sounds great. And we also have some photos here.
There's Troy, and that's Supple Studios. That's my homeboy from home.
Excellent. And maybe we can go through, because you had a whole bunch of great photos, Doyle, that you shared with us. And let's see. We have a crew of people in this, including, I think, someone who's joining us today, right?
Yeah, Amanda B. Perry's the third one from the right, next to Matthew French and Sarah Morris. And then between Ted and I is another writer from our group, Mark Severin. And then there's Troy next to Ted. And then my wife, Molly's there as well. And this is at River Rock Studios. Ted had a great idea about doing some gang vocals, and we'll hear that song in a little bit. But all of these folks came and did gang vocals at River Rock for us one day.
Nice. And then is this also at River Rock, it looks like?
Yeah. They snapped a picture of us doing the gang vocals through the window there.
And that's Sarah, Matt.
Sarah brought her
and cookies.
Goods, yes.
Oh yeah, there you are in action. That's good. Were you guys doing hand claps or just choreography happening right there?
Both. We had hand claps and we had dance moves. The dance moves we ditched, but we tried.
I like to picture you actually doing like the Pips, like Gladys Knight and the Pips, those Motown backup dancer moves. That's kind of what I'm picturing. I'm sure it was exactly like that. By the way, Amanda says, "Love this day. We had so much fun. That's an awesome song." And she said, "And clap."
Amanda is awesome.
Yeah, really good. So let's see, what else do we have here? Sax.
Yeah, that is Lance Hedden, and he is a Bemidji musician, and I was able to play a number of gigs with him. And then he came in and added sax to one of the songs that's Ordinary Truth. And it was like one of those magic moments where it's like 1 or 2 takes and we're done. And Lance is like, he's spot on. He's the guy.
Excellent. That's wonderful. Well, folks are loving the music, loving the show. And again, if you like what you hear, you can buy a copy of this record at Doyle Turner's Bandcamp page. You can also download the digital files, and you'll want to keep tabs on what Doyle's doing, because Doyle, I hear rumors a new record is in the works. What can you tell us about that?
Oh, well, I was riding in a van with Ted and some other friends, and they were all talking about how if you want to grow as a musician, if you want to get something different, you have to change up your process. And like I said, I'm a devoted Supple Studios fan, and I don't know if Ted, if you remember, but I dug both heels in and said, absolutely not. I'm always going to record in where I record. And so this batch of songs finds me recording in a Minneapolis studio away from all the comforts of all of my regular process. And I have to say that, Ted, you were right. It has to happen a little differently every once in a while. But this album's coming out in November, and I'm really, really excited about it. It's an evolution in writing, and evolution in the production. It's something that we're in the initial mixing stages of it right now. And it's a lot of fun.
Someone is excited. Just want to say, and looks like we had some folks who had to go, but we have someone who joined us.
There we go.
Diane is back in Minnesota, enjoying good old ice water with lemon as I de-winterize my camper. Well, that sounds great. If you are another late party arrival, tell us where you're tuned in from, if you're enjoying a drink or beverage as part of this happy hour. And Doyle Turner joining us to revisit his record, Sweet Difficult Sounds, which came out in 2022. Ted Hanashevitz joining us as well, who produced the record. And we're going to get to some more songs right now. And this next one is One Good Night. Another one that I had to make sure I had the space in the right spot. So tell us about this song.
This song is a song that owes a lot to Ted in his producer role, because Ted's he knows everybody. Ted knows everybody. And so you ask, who should we have do that? And Ted's got an idea, and he usually gets a yes, which is amazing. And so we asked Mary Kucherfellow if she would play on one of the tracks. And she said yes. And this is it's hard for me when we were mixing this to not just say put Mary at 10 on every fader of every track she's on.
She is amazing. She was one of our earlier guests on the Back Catalog Listening Party. So folks should check out her episode. Don't remember what number, but she not only is a great songwriter and powerful singer, she is an amazing guitar player. I mean, just can shred like nobody's business. Really soulful stuff. So I'm excited to listen to this one with all of you. This is One Good Night. Doyle Turner here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
One good night when the words land right and the music brings sight to the blind. What's the price to pay to spirit me away? Signposts of life's long goodbye. There are cries in the strings through harmonics and rings, an atmosphere of frequencies and wine, like voices called out to me protesting up and down my spine. Tell it to me true, the way bent notes do. Take me to the space I'm meant to be. Sing it to me true, bend those notes so blue. Sing away the hard edge of these days. In one good night, when words are joined to tune, interlocking true, mind dovetail glue to the heart. Notes read these ruins, trail steps back to the garden where we knew who we are. There are cries in the strings through harmonics and rings, an atmosphere of frequencies and wine, like voices called out to me, some crave to be free, protesting up and down my spine. Tell it to me true, the way bent notes do. Take me to the space I'm meant to be. Sing it to me true, bend those notes so blue. Sing away the hard edge of these days. In one good night, give me one good night when my words land right and the music brings sight to the blind. In one good night. Give me one good night when my words land right and the music brings sight to the blind. In one good night, in one good night.
Yeah. All right. That was Doyle Turner with One Good Night with Mary Kutcherfeld. Man, that guitar, so
Isn't that
awesome.
something?
And
She's gonna tear through the speaker almost. That's how she plays. She's so good.
I know,
Yeah.
so good. And the bass, that was you, Ted, huh?
That was
There's
me.
some
Yeah.
righteous bass parts happening on that. And then the organ too. Again, who was playing organ on that?
Steve Peffer did
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Really, really nice. And yeah, sounding great. Folks are loving the music today on the back catalog listening party. Amanda says, great song, jamming out. And Connie loving it as well. And another way you can support Doyle's music in addition to buying this record and buying the tracks is joining his Patreon. And he mentioned he gives some bonus material for those of you supporting him that way. And I've posted a link in the comments as well. And this might be also a good time to mention that the back catalog listening party has a Patreon as well. And we want to thank all the folks that have kept this show going for 4 years, 209 episodes.
Nice.
What? We want to thank Penny, Anna, Linda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Ellen, Chris, Alex, Becky, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Matt, Steve, Mark, Homestead Pick and Parlor, Severin, Lynn, Mary, Many Tracks, Nikki, Joni, David, CJ, Wiley, Stephanie, Christy, Diane, Hetty, and maybe you. If you would like to join our back catalog listening party Patreon and get invited to special after parties, live streams, get first look at all the guests, our Patreon knew that Ted was coming before anyone else did. The rest of the world just knew that Doyle was coming, but they got the inside scoop. So that's what you get when you support the back catalog listening party. But mainly, we're just really happy that you're here joining us. And again, if you just joined us, this is the show where we invite different guest artists to revisit old records. And today we are revisiting Doyle Turner's 2022 release, Sweet Difficult Sounds. And Amanda had a great question, which I want to get to. Where is your favorite place to write?
For me, my favorite place to write is on Lake Bemidji on a pontoon. A friend of mine, Lance Benson, introduced me to writing on the water, and I fell in love with it. So Ted and I think our first in-person co-write was on the pontoon, right?
On the pontoon. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. And that sounds great. Any other if you have other questions for Doyle or Ted, and Ted might be able to give you some of the honest inside track questions that Doyle might be too embarrassed to share. So you can ask questions of Ted as well. Again, just conversations between friends here online, so feel free to throw them in the chat. And one question I had was how long it took you guys to make the record, because you live in different places and you had in a lot of different musicians. You're in a couple studios. How long did the whole process take from the starting of like recording the basic tracks to completion?
Do you remember, Ted? Because I think we started in January, if I remember right.
We did. We started demoing in the fall of 2021. I think that was the year. And then started tracking in January, and we're probably done by May or June, I think. Or maybe that's when mixing was happening. I don't remember that part. But it took...
No, we finished up by, I think it was the end of June.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fast considering, how many parts you were working with.
But that's like snail's pace compared to Ted, because Ted in that span of time does 3 or 4 albums.
While we were listening to this one.
Oh my
God. I just made an album.
We thought you were just listening very carefully, but really you were crafting your next move. I love that. By the way, the rabbit hole wants us to ask Doyle who his all-time favorite band is. They said they were shocked. I want to know, Doyle, who is your favorite band?
Ellen, what do you think it is before he?
Yeah, I want to hear your guess, Ellen.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like it could go so many directions. It could be something really classic, like when it said band. So I don't know. I have no idea.
Primus.
Really?
Yes, Primus.
I would not have guessed that. I would have guessed something a little more classic, like something kind of 70s would have been I would have gone that route. Wow. You're right. I would have not guessed Primus.
Fantastic.
Awesome. I love that. So if anyone else has any probing questions for Doyle or Ted, Ted, maybe same question to you.
Yes, I want to know.
Favorite band? Well, whatever band does Baby Shark. I don't know who does it. I just know that they're the best.
The band, or is it like
a Wiggles? I think it's the Wiggles does Baby Shark.
Is it just a market research group that crafted that? I don't know.
It was AI. My favorite band is AI.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Oh, good times. So I've been loving hearing this record and hearing kind of the produced version of Doyle, because if for any of you have heard Doyle, play solo live, it's acoustic guitar, really your beautiful pure voice, Doyle, and having all these extra instruments, just gives a totally different life to it. Were there any songs that you were like really surprised? I know you and Ted were talking about, and Ted always has ideas on the production, which is why you chose him to produce the record. But were there any songs where you were like, oh, that went a totally different direction than I was thinking? Are there any particular that stand out?
That title track, Best If I Forget It, that started with this little riff that, just kind of inhabited my brain for a little while. And Ted took that riff and made it into this full on production, kind of adding a little bit and then dropping and adding a little bit, and then the organ. And I would have never have envisioned that. Ted's creative genius brings out something different in those songs. And I think it's his extensive kind of rock and roll background, I believe. Yeah, his bass playing is amazing, but his mind being able to figure out just the right production value it took those songs in a completely different direction.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of your songs could like with it, a different producer would have just sounded completely different. Like it could have been like a, like a country folk record or something. And instead it turned into this, and it's so wonderful. So are there any, you mentioned Primus, your favorite band. Obviously I can hear those acoustic songwriter roots in what you do. What else did you listen to like growing up that kind of you feel like shaped you?
1970s country out of KFGO in Fargo. It was always on when we woke up to go down for breakfast. It was always on in the kitchen. And so alongside the Pork Belly Futures and all of that kind of stuff, you'd get, Chris Christopherson and Johnny Cash. And those are my two go-tos from the 70s. We were really, my mom made sure that we saw a lot of live music and a lot of live production. So we went to a lot of plays and that sort of stuff. So I had right now listen very broadly, but not deeply. Ted listens deeply on everything. He's a whole album listener. And so he's got an encyclopedic knowledge of things. And when we were doing this record, I think it was These Days, Ted said, well, I want, what kind of canyon sound were you going for?
Canyon. On the ooze, we did this ooh in the middle part. And I was like, I hear Laurel Canyon, like just that kind of vibe. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I'd be curious to hear, between Primus and like 70s country. I feel like, somewhere in the middle is this record. But I'd love to hear the more Primus leaning Doyle Turner and see what would happen. And I don't know if Ted would want to produce that or not, but I think that would be pretty rad.
We've just created the next concept for the next album.
Oh man, we had a question. Oh, by the way, there were also a bunch of comments about people either, I don't know if they're sharing their favorite bands or just commenting on what we were saying, but a lot of folks joining the conversation about bands. But Amanda had a question. Do you remember the name of the first song you ever wrote?
I do not. My writing philosophy is you write a lot, and then from that you get some that maybe can rise to the top. It's that Pat Pattison idea that 10% of your songs are going to be your best songs, and how big do you want your best? So if you want one song that's your best, then you write 10. And so I try to write a lot. And so Ted, you want to tell them about when we were working on a song? Was it last summer? And you brought me some changes from one of your albums that you recorded.
Yeah, we wrote a song together, and then I recorded it, and I think I made a couple of lyrical tweaks. And I'm like, do I want to make sure this is okay by you? And I send it to him, and he's like, I like it. Can you send me the lyrics? I don't know the words. I'm like, well, you wrote the words.
You didn't remember?
No, but it's common. I've done that.
Yeah. It's funny.
Relearn how to play it.
I sometimes don't remember the words to songs that I actually sing regularly. So there you go. It's a very common problem. Well, I do want to mention that if you want to learn more about Doyle and obviously get music, find out where he's playing, certainly, especially if you live here in the upper Midwest, because that's where his home base is. And I do know that the next show coming up is June 30th at the Turf Club, the International Treasures, which would be Doyle and Ted. And I have to always be careful when I say Doyle and Ted, or Ted and Doyle, because I always want to say Dead and Toil. So yeah. So if you want to see Dead and Toil perform with their band, the International Treasures, along with Katie Tessman, Molly Brandt, and Emily Havoc, that's the Turf Club in St. Paul on June 30th. So that should be a lot of fun. But you can find out all the details at doyleturner.com as well. It looks like we have time at least for one more song. We want to get to this question first.
Oh, Dan
Rumsey says, great work, Doyle and Ted. Doyle, how do you think you might next go outside your usual process? That's a really good question.
I think we kind of covered it. We're going to try a Primus.
Primus, yeah.
Inspired, record. It's kind of interesting. Paul Simon does that sort of thing where he's constantly experimenting, and I think that's the right way. I think when Ted was telling me about that, that was probably the way to go to develop as an artist. And so, hopefully it'll be something completely different.
Excellent. Well, I can't hear what's to come, but right now we're going to hear what was and what is. This is Coming Round. Is there anything you want to say about this song before we take a listen?
Oh, this song is such a joy. It was written about my grandpa, and I think the prompt word was circumference. And so there's a lot of that round kind of language in there. But it was about my grandfather. My grandfather was a huge influence on me, and he was kind of a hellraiser when he was young, but by the time I knew him, he was very gentle, and he was just the kindest human being. But he had this background of fighting and drinking and all that kind of stuff, and it's a song that he was just such a huge influence on me. So that's what Coming Round. And we had such a great time recording this. Ted had an idea. He said, we need to do gang vocals, and we need to do hand claps and all of that. And so we got all of these folks together, Amanda and Mark Severin and Sarah. And there's a picture of my grandpa in the center there with my dad on the right. And Ted said, no, we got to do this. And I was like, but Ted, we don't have to. And he said, you're going to want this as a memory. And he was so right, because I think back on that day is just with such fondness.
Well, that's great. Can't wait to hear this. This is Coming Round. Doyle Turner here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Know the start, don't know the end. Waiting on this river bend, listening to the water confess. It's been a dry spell in my chest. To me you were a tall pine tree. To this day you overshadow me. Climbed your shoulders so I could see. I'm rooted in revolving memories. Wait for it, it'll come around. Wait for it, it's coming round. Wait for it, it'll come around. Memories too big to get my arms around. Button boxes and old junk drawers probably had what you were looking for. A whole lot of what's mine is yours. I see you grin through that old screen door. Knuckles wide on veiny hands, beat the tar out of many men. Showed me patience, held grace for me. Said on earth there's no guarantee, but wait for it, it'll come around. Wait for it, it's coming round. Wait for it, it'll come around. Memories too big to get my arms around. Shirts and old work blues, deep laughter, rattles, words and lines can't compare, winding round you like an empty snare. Wait for it, it'll come around. Wait for it, it's coming round. Wait for it, it'll come around. The memory's too big to get my arms around. Shake your head and laugh, squinting out from that photograph. When you look out, I hope you see your kind of man coming round in me. Wait for it, it'll come around. Wait for it, it's coming round. Wait for it, it'll come around. The memory's too big to get my arms. Wait for it, it'll come around. Wait for it, it's coming round. Wait too big to get my arms around.
There we go. And
Doyle Turner.
yeah, we're keeping the applause going. Yeah, that's right. That's what everyone is saying out there. Sounded good. And Amanda says, dead in toil. Cheers. And thank you so much for joining us today. Doyle Turner joining us to talk about his 2022 release, Sweet Difficult Sounds. Ted Hanashevitz, the illustrious producer, joining us as well. And all of you joining in the chat and the conversation with those big wide ears. And Connie says, thanks for a terrific show. Thank you all for being here. This is what makes this hour my favorite of every week. And if Anthony Ihrig weren't in Disneyland, he'd be saying the same thing because every week we say it, and it's true, no matter what's happened in the rest of the week in the world, in our lives, this 1 hour where we get to just listen to music and talk about it and not be distracted by other things is so special. So Doyle and Ted, thank you for being here. All of you, thank you for joining the party. And if you would like it, then like it on the YouTubes, direct more bots to these guys. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel because we do this every Friday, not with Dead and Toil every week, sadly, but with other great artists. And so you can check out what we're doing. Also, we shared a lot of photos today, and I forgot to say that if you were just listening to the show, the audio version, then you can go to the show notes that will be up later this week. If you go to Back Catalog Listening Party and go to the most recent episode, you will see we'll have the list of all the tracks. We'll have links to all their projects, and you'll also get to see some of those photos as well. So thank you all for joining us. Thanks, Wiley and Chris and Joni and the Rabbit Hole, all of you for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend. I did not finish the cashews. Still an embarrassing amount of cashews left.
That's okay.
But I'll work on it. That will be my assignment for the weekend. So
nuts.
nuts. And thanks, Dan, for the vote of confidence and having the full technical reins without my pal Anthony joining me. So I appreciate everyone's patience. And Doyle and Ted, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you for having us. Oh, it's always so fun to spend time with you.
Well, cheers. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yes, cheers.
Cheers, everyone.